Hello, here we are again, third line day. And this is an early one. This is at 2:08 in the morning. The sun transits into 42 line 3 BST. Remember, so of course you need to change that depending on where in the world you are. So the 42-3 is called trial and error. This is, of course, a keynote that we use for the third line generally. And so we find here the third line that gives its name to the structure of all third lines, trial and error. The 42, as I think I mentioned before, it's half of a format channel, and format channels have influence over the rest of the chart. Format channels, they are the 3 channels that go between the sacral and the root. And their frequency, their energy influences the rest of the design. They are also subject to depression. Ra says that this is a place where chemical depression is bred in the body. So when you have someone with gate 42 who is unable to complete something for whatever reason, or who has to give up on something, quit for whatever reason, this can lead to an experience of depression. Trial and error as an energy and through genetic continuity can lead to depression in all third lines. One definition of trial and error that I found when I was doing a bit of research on this, it says the process of experimenting with various methods of doing something until one finds the most successful, which is a bit like try again until you succeed, or if at first you don't succeed, try again. I like it when the definition now, it doesn't mention mistakes. It doesn't mention that sort of, you're wrong. There's none of that sort of feeling with it. It's just, okay, so that wasn't successful. Let's do it again. The 42-3 is the archetype of the third line. That's what we find really in its energy. And it's just that this is the experiential way. The third line way, the experiential way is to make bonds and break bonds. It is to bump into things. It is trial and error. This is our way. This is how we grow. This is how we learn. So there's a lifetime learning here, which I think, hold on, let me just check. It is the only lifetime learning in gate 42. And it says, in times of increase, mistakes are a natural part of the process. Ra says that you can substitute increase for growth. This is the maturing process. This is how we grow. We grow through trial and error. Mistakes are a natural part of this process. This is also about trying to complete things. So the lifetime learning could read, in a time of growth, when trying to complete things, there are always going to be difficulties along the way. And completion is just a process. It's not an end of it in and of itself. There's always going to be something new beginning. It's just another step on the path to complete something. The exaltation talks about the energy to turn mistakes into advantages and the power to accept mistakes as part of growth. This is the maturity, this is the human way. If we do something over and over again, that's not diversification in a sense, that's stagnation. Trial and error pushes us to grow, because although we might be try and try again, we don't try in the same way. We're not repeating. It's that definition of madness, isn't it? If you do the same thing again and again and again, hoping for a different result, definition of madness. That's not what trial and error is. This is pushing us into growth, because each time it tries again, it's doing it in a slightly different way. And it's the experience always that's important for us as a species. Whenever you've got anything that's in this experiential way, that's what it's about. It's the experience. It's not the end result. It's not the container that experience is part of. It's just the experience in and of itself. And this is what's important for us as a species, to grow. And the detriment says, mistakes give power to moodiness and caution. Ra tells us that this is someone who is going to learn through pain. There's always the potential for a mistake to lead to something wonderful. But whether they do or not, it's still just a moment in time. And as much as the mind might like to take hold of that moment and chew it over and chew it over, and it's just the mind doing that, because everything else actually has moved on. We need to make mistakes. You know, I don't know that I've ever really learned anything from getting it right first time. But when I get something wrong and I have to do it in a different way to try and get it to go correctly, the way that I want it to go, whatever it is, then I have learned something in that process. And this can be seen very clearly in my knitting projects. The 32 line 3 is called a lack of continuity. And Ra wrote that here is the classic third line configuration, the line of adaptation in the structure. We know that this third line of adaptation is about bonds made and broken, and this is the process of trial and error that leads to the potential harmony and the wisdom of the sixth line. So remember that harmonic resonance that we have with the 1 and the 4, the 2 and the 5, and the 3 and the 6. So we'll see it when we get to the sixth line, how it has to go through its lack of continuity phase as a third line anyway. And one leads to the other. This third line, lack of continuity, can lead to a wisdom. The 32 in itself is conservative. It needs continuity. And when you get to the third line, we have a lack of continuity. And that is simply because we have the trial and error of bumping into the other side and making mistakes. The genetic continuity of third lines is very clear in our 42 and 32 examples today. So perhaps today is a day for celebrating our third line processes and the hundreds of little ways that we have to make and bake make and bake our bonds. And we can maybe break them at the same time. All of those little missteps that we make throughout the day, the little trips that we have that maybe we don't really pay attention to because we're so focused on the trial and error being something really big, like, oh, I pranked the car or I tripped over and I damaged my body or something. But there are other little tiny things that happen in the day. Just walking out of a room is breaking a bond with whoever you've left behind in the room. It can be something very mundane and insignificant, but it's still a moment. Our body still on some level has to process that. So maybe we can look at some of the little things for our aha moments instead of just looking for all the big things. Venus goes into gate 21 at 2134 BST. So what are your values around control? Because of course gate 21 is quite big on control, as we know. Do you value it? What kind of control is valuable to you within the context of community? Are you able to accept control if you have been educated as to why it might be you need it? Because these are some of these the flavors that come through in that 21, that gate 21. Perhaps your values are more based in freedom, okay? And it might feel that control is the very opposite of that. Venus asks us to examine our standards and our values, to look around at those who share our values and those who don't. She doesn't tell us what to do with our observations. However, never mind. I guess that's going to be down to strategy and authority. But, is it correct for us to spend time or be with or whatever with people who do not share our values? In all things specifically, but generally rather, and then specifically around control or freedom, because those are the flavors in that 21. So the moon, gate 16, we looked at that yesterday because it's quite a late one that slips over. So we have gate 35, and so we're still experiencing throat gates here with the moon. And this is at 9:32 a.m. BST. I think how many other letters I can put in there. Gate 35, the gate of progress and change and experience. It's collective. It's always ready to engage in a new experience without thinking about the consequences. There's a curiosity here and a desire for change. And this is driven by a need to experience a depth of feeling. So they're not just experiencing in a very surface way. This is about feeling. It leads up from the 4130, which is the gate of the recognition of feelings and the channel of the feelings. So it does want that to be part of the experience. It's coming out of the solar plexus, for goodness sake. It's all about emotions and feelings. And this is collecting experiences from which then the collective can learn. So It likes lots of new things to be happening all the time, which means that boredom can be part of its makeup, and so can restlessness. So can you recognize any of these qualities in your day? It's followed by gate 45. This is at 1924, a great year. And that comes in BST, of course. This is the gatherer. This is the ruler. This is the archetypal leader who gathers resources, who guides its tribe as to what is needed for survival and for the prosperity of the tribe, whilst also keeping an eye on its own needs and its own resources. It's very aware of education as a foundation for success within the community, within the tribe. It enjoys a position of authority up there at the sort of the top of the tree, but it does really well when it delegates its day-to-day tasks and the affairs of running the community to somebody else, and it just holds its position of power there. So these are what we've got going on at the moment. Enjoy your day. Go gently. Be kind to yourselves. And third line day, be kind to yourself. Carry Arnica. And I will catch up with you tomorrow. Yeah, so bye-bye for now. Thank you for watching.